Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military with Summary channel. In this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about the conflict on the KHARKIV Ukraine, where during the previous night between the 9th and the 10th of June of 2026, both the Russians and the Ukrainians attacked each other using hundreds of drones. The Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation stated that between 8 a.m. of the 9th of June till 8 p.m. of the 9th of June, the Russians destroyed 292 drones over the territory of Russia, and between 8 p.m. of the 9th of June and 7 a.m. of the 10th of June, the Russians destroyed additional 326 drones launched by the Ukrainians. Later, pro-Ukrainian sources published this picture where we can see the approximate routes of the drones that were launched by the Ukrainian side, and as you can see, according to this picture, most of the drones were launched through the northeastern and the eastern part of Ukraine. But probably the Ukrainians were mainly using the Kharkiv region to attack deep inside of the territory of Russia. So the Ukrainians used the Kharkiv region to attack the Vladimir region, which is located to the east of the city of Moscow. The Ukrainians using the Kharkiv region attacked in the direction of the settlement of Cheboksary, and using the same territory, the Ukrainians attacked in the direction of the settlement of Samara. As for the settlement of Samara and the Vladimir region, the Ukrainians were attacking objects of energy infrastructure. As for the settlement of Cheboksary, the Ukrainians hit the military objects, so the enterprise that the Russians were used for the military purposes. As for the Vladimir region, the sources reported that the Ukrainians attacked this object of energy infrastructure, and here we have several videos that were published by civilians from the nearby settlements. In these videos we can see explosions, we can see black smoke over this object of energy infrastructure, but as of the morning of the 10th of June of 2026, we haven't received anything that can confirm or that can show the current status of this object of energy infrastructure. A bit further to the east, along M7 roads, we come to the settlement of Cheboksary, and as for this settlement, during the previous night and this morning, we received lots of updates from this area. The Ukrainians were attacking, according to information we have, an object of military infrastructure, more precise, the military enterprise that the Russians used for their military purposes. In this video, we can see first seconds after the Ukrainians attacked this territory with a drone. Furthermore, we received this video where we can see that the Ukrainians were using the Flamingo drones. Here we can see the Flamingo drones flying in the direction of the settlement of Cheboksary. As of the morning of the 10th of June of 2026, it's very difficult to understand what kind of damage the Ukrainians managed to deal to this enterprise and what kind of value this enterprise has in the Russian military sphere. But one thing is clear, that probably this building and this enterprise was damaged significantly. Just take a look at this video once again. First seconds after attack show us that the building was damaged significantly. And here we can see the same building but from another angle. As you can see, this is not a very big building, just 3 levels, and as a result of attack, a part of this building was reduced to ruins. Most likely in coming hours we will receive additional analysis from different experts on the matter of this building and on the matter of the damage that Ukrainians managed to deal. Another important territory is the city of Samara. Here we have drone strikes as well, and the sources reported that the Ukrainians attacked the Samara oil refinery. In this video we can see a civilian that was moving along one of the main roads of the city of Samara and filming the situation over the Samara oil refinery. We can see a black smoke that broke out right after the Ukrainians attacked the territory. So according to information we have, the Ukrainians attacked this object of energy infrastructure, and according to these pictures we see that most likely this object of energy infrastructure was damaged significantly. So of course, when talking about this object, this very big object, we don't say that the Ukrainians managed to destroy the entire object, but probably several tanks with fuel were damaged critically. And as we discussed during the first seconds of this video, most likely the Ukrainians were attacking deep inside of the theater of Russia using the city of Kharkiv or using some warehouses of the city of Kharkiv, because during the night and this morning the Russians used 100 of drones to attack the territory of the city, and as a result of attack the Russians managed to deal significant damage. During the night and this morning we were receiving lots of updates of how Russian drones were flying over the settlement of Kharkiv, probably gathering the reconnaissance information. And when the Russians finished this operation, the Russians began bombing and attacking the city of Kharkiv from many directions. And a lot during the night and this morning we received lots of videos on this matter. We can see that several objects of energy and fuel infrastructure were completely destroyed, and furthermore, according to information we have, the Russians managed to destroy a warehouse. For example, in this video we can see the moments when the Russians destroyed a warehouse, and then we can see a secondary detonation. Probably 2, 3 or 4 explosions took place after the Russians attacked this ammo depot, and the Russians continued attacking this territory. Furthermore, according to information we have, according to all these videos, the Russians once again were attacking the most northwestern parts of the city. A big, probably a very big fire anomaly was recorded in this area. And I would like to remind you that 2 days ago the Russians attacked this territory. There is a very big warehouse in this area, and if you remember, several days ago we discussed that the Russians attacked these warehouses, these big buildings, and as a result of attack these big buildings were damaged significantly, but most likely fire teams managed to arrive in this area in time to extinguish the fire, which means that the Russians haven't managed to destroy this industrial zone during the previous attacks. So that is why the Russians once again attacked this territory, and it seems that now the Russians managed to destroy this object in the northwestern parts of the city of Kharkiv completely. Most likely the Ukrainians were using this territory to store and to keep drones and munition, both to attack deep inside of the territory of Russia and to support their contingent through the settlement of Kazachia Lopin, where the Russians are advancing right now from the settlement of Granov and from the territory between from the territory along the border between Russia and Ukraine. Another important territory that was attacked by Russians is the settlement of Pechenehy, which is located in the area of the city of Cheguyev on the way towards the most northeastern part of the Kharkiv region. The sources reported that the Russians, as a result of attack, destroyed a gas station. So another gas station was destroyed. As you can see, this time the gas station was destroyed on the territory of the Kharkiv region, and the Ukrainians were using this gas station to supply and support their forces and vehicles in the most northeastern part of Kharkiv region. And now, due to the destruction of this gas station, we believe that the Ukrainians will start suffering some certain problems in this area. And today we received another report that the Russians managed to improve their position significantly to the west of the settlement of Bily Kolodys, and these are the changes on the ground between the dates. If you remember, several weeks ago, pro-Ukrainian sources reported that the Ukrainians began a counteroffensive in this area, and we adjusted the map by adding significant square kilometers of gray zone, and this situation happened probably a month ago, but since that moment we haven't received anything that could confirm the Ukrainian control over this territory, and today pro-Russian sources colored these territories back, so that is why we removed this gray zone and added additional contested area in the Russian favor. So the Russians began offensive operation along the line between the city of Volchansk, Vilcha, Shevsterevka and Losovka. The Russians are moving from these territories in the southeastern direction with the purpose to attack the settlement of Bily Kolodys from the west. At the same time, we start receiving reports from different sources that the Ukrainians began their counter-offensive operation in the area of the settlement of Gravskaya with the purpose to slow down the Russians and not to allow the Russians to continue offensive operation towards the settlement of Bily Kolodys. Furthermore, several pro-Ukrainian sources reported that as a result of this attack, the Ukrainians managed to recapture the settlement of Gravskaya, and now the Russians once again are forced to stop with the purpose to stabilize the situation. So this is the situation in the northeastern part of the Kharkiv region. The Russians continue their Kharkiv offensive operation both from the northeastern and the northern parts with the purpose to improve their positions before probably a major battle for the city of Kharkiv itself. In the northern direction, we have also additional changes on the ground. The sources reported that the Russians began offensive operations west of the settlement of Zapsilya, and these are the changes on the ground between the previous days. This is the end of the 8th of June, this is the end of the 9th of June, and this is the beginning of the 10th of June of 2026. The Russians right now are fighting for this big forest along the river of Psol with the purpose to improve positions before the beginning of the battle for the settlement of Velika Rybica. Another important thing is that today several pro-Russian sources, including the group of forces North, stated that currently the clashes are taking place around the settlement of Mikhailovka. The settlement of Mikhailovka is basically a part of the Krasnopolye, which means that if Russians, as a result of clashes, are able to establish complete control over the settlement of Mikhailovka, this is going to mean that the Russians enter the settlement of Krasnopolye itself, at least from its northeastern part. Now let's talk about the LYMAN direction. During the previous 12 hours, we received the most important updates from this area. As you can see, the map has been adjusted significantly. This is the end of the 9th of June, and this is the beginning of the 10th of June of 2026. And as you can see, according to these updates, the Russians during the previous 48 hours managed to improve their position significantly, and basically the defense of the city of LYMAN has collapsed completely. The Ukrainians are no longer able to hold their lines. In coming days, most likely the Ukrainians would be forced to withdraw their positions from the territory of LYMAN towards more reliable positions as close as possible to the river of Seversky Donetsk. We believe that at the same time with the city of LYMAN, the Russians will announce complete control also over the settlement of Konstantinovka, so which means that both the city of Konstantinovka and LYMAN are going to fall somewhere at the same time. The Russians continue advancing. We have changes that were provided by pro-Russian sources, and we have a video that confirms Russian control and the Russian presence through this territory. The battle for the city of LYMAN continues, as well as the battle for the city of Konstantinovka. Now let's move further and let's talk about the Crimean front line. During the previous 12 hours, we received additional updates, very important updates about the situation in this area. The Ukrainians continue attacking vehicles and transport of Russians and on the territories around the cities of Mariupol, Berdyansk, so along main supply lines. Furthermore, according to information we have, during the previous night, the Ukrainians attacked another bridge that connects the Crimea with Kherson and Zaporozhye directions. I would like to remind you that during the previous days, the Ukrainians damaged the bridge along M18 road, and currently the Russians are no longer able to use this territory for the logistic purposes. Today we received the report that the Ukrainians struck several bridges along this territory, so which means that the Russians currently are not able to use these two territories for the logistic purposes, for redeployment of troops and so on. And the only road that the Russians are still able to use is the territory through the settlement of Armyansk. But this territory could fall into complete Ukraine's long-range and mid-range control with drones, which means that this is not a very secure way how to move forces and how to support and supply Crimea and so on. So as we discussed during the previous video, the Ukrainians, it seems, prepares themselves for a landing operation, and it seems that in coming days, hours, the Ukrainians may try to land their forces in the area of the Kinburn Spit, in the area of the settlement of Oleshki, and if it happens, the Russians will have certain problems to repel these attacks, because they will be forced to take troops and forces from Crimea, and the most important problem that the Russians would be forced to use the city of Armyansk for these purposes, and of course the Ukrainians would attack this territory with drones and missiles with the purpose not to allow the Russians to introduce additional forces through the western part and the southern western parts of Kherson region. So as we discussed during the previous video, something is brewing in this area, and most likely in coming days we'll see some special operations from the Ukrainian side. While the Russians are trying to establish complete control over the Slavyansk-Glushkovka agglomeration, the Ukrainians will try to make everything they can with the purpose to force the Russians to redeploy additional reserves in this area with the purpose to stabilize the situation. And any redeployment of troops and reserves from one direction to another may force the Russians to change their plans regarding major battles like battles for Slavyansk-Glushkovka agglomeration and the city of Zaporozhye. And that's it for the short video. The Military with Summary channel reminds to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.